This is me a year ago. Well, 15 months ago. I was teaching 5th grade, and while I always loved the kids, I was falling apart. Looking at this photo, I can tell you that I'd probably slept less than 4 hours the night before. My hair was coming out in clumps. I'd started having panic attacks for the first time in my life. I was irritable. I wasn't participating in my Pi community as much. Teaching was my entire life. And not by choice, but because whatever I did, I could not get my work done fast enough. It seemed like everybody around me was able to cope. So I felt this immense amount of shame because I couldn't keep up. But before I delve deeper into this feeling of shame, I think it's important to mention that I worked at an incredible school throughout the time that I was a teacher. Admin was supportive, my colleagues were some of the most creative, intelligent, committed people that I know. I honestly cannot say enough good things about that institution and the work that's happening there. But any educator will tell you that to teach with integrity, you have to work hard. Really, really hard. And I felt crushed under the weight of a schedule that I couldn't handle. A typical day for me looked like wake up at 5 a.m., leave the house by 6 so that I can be at school by 7, and use that hour before the kids come to prep my materials, my lessons, teach, with meetings generously sprinkled throughout the day. And once the kids left at 4, I'd use that time to make copies, prepare for the next day, talk with my co-teacher about what had gone down that day. I'd leave around 5:30, get home by 6:30, eat dinner, which had almost always been cooked by David because I didn't have enough time to cook. Are you kidding? Then I'd keep working. I'd lesson plan from 9 to 11, and then I'd have to stay up another 2 hours because I needed some time for myself. And then from 1 to 5 a.m., I would sleep and I would do it all again. It was a mess. I was a mess. I'd miss emails, fall behind on commitments to my team, forget to call parents back until the next day, you name it. I felt like a total failure in a profession that often feels so high stakes. I think people have the opposite conception of teaching. Like, it's just kids, how hard could it be? But to me, a lot of the decisions I had to make felt like they had the potential to make or break a child's future. I can so easily think back on my own education and recall comments that teachers made, whether good or bad, that I still think about to this day as a 27-year-old. So I used to feel inundated with this sense of shame for not being able to keep up because the work felt so important. But I recently saw a post on Instagram that talked about how industrial time is a social construct. This concept of working many consecutive hours at a time is not normal. No one thrives under those conditions, but especially not people who are neurodivergent. I will say as a disclaimer that I have not been formally diagnosed with ADHD, although having been a teacher to many a student with ADHD, having witnessed multiple of my own family members, both immediate and extended, deal with a diagnosis of ADHD, I feel fairly certain that that's what I have. But regardless, what I do know about myself is that I have a very hard time focusing. Not all the time. There are certain tasks, certain situations where I can completely lock in. And I might go hours without getting up to go to the bathroom or eating or drinking anything because I'm so focused on the task at hand. But 99% of the time, it is nearly impossible for me to complete a task from start to finish in one sitting. It's just not how my brain works. It takes a lot of extra energy for me to do that, to the point where I feel very drained for some of the smallest tasks. And to be honest, the only reason that I haven't gone through the process of getting diagnosed is because when I talked to my doctor about it, they said that it would cost around $30,000 for neurological testing, and I was like, no, forget it. There's no way. I don't have that kind of money to spend on a diagnosis, a label. So instead, I quit my job. And yes, there were other factors at play, but what it really came down to was that I couldn't cope in that environment with those demands. Some people could. Many people did. I would watch my colleagues complete a task in 30 minutes that would take me multiple hours. Every day I would find myself starting a task, let's say creating a chart, only to realize halfway through that the pencils needed sharpening before the kids came. So I'd set down my marker, get up to gather the pencils from each table, head over to the sharpener. My eyes would start to wander and I would see that the jugs needed to be refilled. So I'd stop sharpening and I'd head over across the hall to fill up the water. On my way back, directly in my line of sight would be my laptop. And I would remember, oh yeah, I need to upload an image for the morning meeting slides. So I'd open up my laptop and that would go on and on and on. You get the point. That would happen to me every day, multiple times a day. It still happens to me multiple times a day. It has always happened to me multiple times a day. It's just part of the way that I function. Except now I can follow those urges without many consequences.
I can listen to my body, and when I feel hyper-focused on something at 2 a.m., I can ride that out because I don't have to wake up at a certain time. And when I feel hyper-aware of my environment, I can follow those impulses and I don't have to feel stressed about it.
I couldn't cope, not because I'm lesser than, not because I'm incompetent compared to my colleagues. It wasn't because I wasn't passionate about education or that I didn't feel fulfilled in the work. I did. That's exactly why it took me so long to come to terms with this. But I finally figured out that it's just because my brain works differently and that that's okay. I felt really guilty for quitting a job that felt so purposeful and meaningful, but I'm able to be a better daughter, sister, friend, wife, community member because of it. I'm not as irritable anymore. My hair is not falling out. I have not had a panic attack. I have finally found an environment that suits my needs as a learner and as a worker. So in the end, I did not quit teaching because I didn't feel valued or I wasn't making enough money or because I didn't enjoy being around kids. I quit because I couldn't cope. And I finally feel okay about that.
Editing Sophie's back. If you connected with this video in any way, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe.
If you're watching this and any of this resonates with you, I hope that you are able to find an environment that works for you and to let go of any shame you're feeling.